Hello, welcome everyone. Um, Today we're going to present to you how you can leverage page scripting for manual and automated tests. My name is Vasily Iliev. I'm a senior software engineer in the Business Central Clients team, the team that developed page scripting. And with me here is Thomas, who you've already met.
Hey again.
So same as Arita, we're on the same team. He's also my manager. And interestingly enough, 2 years ago today, Vincent stood and introduced page scripting for the first time in BC Tech Days. And we stand here in front of you having a dedicated session for it. So how many of you are using page scripting today? Lovely. And how many of you are using it in an automated environment? Fantastic. So I hope that after this session, next time the same question is asked, like you will have the opportunity to raise your hand.
I forgot to raise my hand because we are using it in production as well.
I did it on our behalf. So today we're going to show you what page scripting is, what it can offer you, and how you can utilize it to the fullest. We're going to talk about best practices, something that we learned using it ourselves to share with you. We're also going to talk about BC Replay, which is the script replayer for automation. And then we're going to share with you how we use page scripting internally. So what is page scripting? We are aware that user acceptance tests can be very tedious and lengthy process, and it is often prone to regressions due to its purpose. So page scripting is a tool that will help you capture all of these user flows in a single file that will allow you to streamline that process to be more effective and to reduce cost. What is important also to note that today's presentation is going to be about the feature as is today. And it's important to highlight what page scripting is not. And page scripting is not just a generic HTML automation tool. It is instead a tool that works with AL, with the business logic coming from your apps, from your extension, and it works across different platform versions. So, Thomas, can you show us?
Yep. So I'll be doing a bit of layman's examples because we always have new people, as we just saw from hands raised, we always have new people coming into this feature, so I'll show a bit of happy path, and Vasil is going to complement me with a lot more hardcore technical knowledge, how to make this a lot more flexible and useful for your own use cases. So first, let's just create some page scripting scenarios. So in my case, starting, I want to have a page script that creates sales quotes. I'm just clicking around. I'm not thinking at all about page scripting. I'm just going about doing my business, what I want to achieve. I created the sales quote. I actually want Trey Research to be my customer. No, I'm editing sales quote. That's wrong. Scratch that. So you stop and start a new one. Very easy. You can, and page scripting tool forgets all about your mistakes. Very nice. Start recording again. We click a new sales quote. Let's pick Trey as our customer. I'll leave it to the app validation to figure out the customer name. I'm trying to just give enough, not to hard code too much, but at the same time just give enough for the platform to figure out the right presets. Let's pick an item. It doesn't matter too much. Let's pick quantity. Yes. That's it. I'll stop recording. And now pretty much I have a page script recording that can give me infinite sales quotes because I can keep running it and it will keep creating sales quotes. So that's pretty nice. No. Script failed. Well, I think since I was in the last session, I know how to fix this. I made a mistake. I should not have used the at the dialog to pick the value because the index has changed. So that was a really useful tip that I can now use from a previous session that Luke and Tina did. Thank you. It's gonna save my day. Right, so but that was the thing. I relied too much on just trying to do everything out of the box. And it was not as straightforward as that. I still want to fix that because the next one is gonna rely on that. The next thing I want to do, so I have one trade research. I'll try a new one, just for the sake of it. I'll just close a little bit of this. Yes, new page script. Now what I want to do is to start a new one, and in this case, I will be relying on doing a bit of filtering beforehand, so I want to see only the quotes from Trey. I want to open Trey quote, and I want to simply make an order out of that. So what's different about this case is that I'm now also relying on selecting things from a list. And yes, I'll record all that. Dialogs is also fine. We are able to record which options I do select, and now it's became an order. I'm gonna close the page and stop recording. Reset a bit of state. And let's try to see, fingers crossed, now it's gonna work. Yes, that should work. Trey. Going through dialogues, all is good, confirming, making a sales order, and that worked. So now I have feeling of confidence from my last mistake. I recovered, now all is green. I'm very confident that I know how to use page scripting because I see all the green check marks. But what happens if I run it again? The problem is there was only one Trey sales quote. That is no longer there. So I was, again, making a mistake trying to rely on the data setup. I didn't set up my own data. I tried to rely on what was in the data, and while running the tests, I changed the state. So the state was no longer the state that the test started with. And, well, that's a problem. As a layman test coder, I'm stuck here. And Vasil, I need help from you. How can I make this script smarter?
Yeah. So what did Thomas do wrong? So he took very bad assumptions from the beginning. So he tried to create a flow to, for example, convert a sales quote to a sales order. But he assumed that the data that he was going to use, it's already there. So one should not assume the state of the system. You should create it. So I have this particular scenario here. Yes. Let me just switch from the presentation. Lovely. So I have this flow where I did exactly what Thomas did. I went to sales quotes, I selected a row, and I have a validation that I'm using that customer because I made the same assumption. So rule number one, never assume the state, create it. So how can I recover from that, and how can you recover from this? Some of you may already have noticed that, but we have the concept of a current step of the recording, and it is highlighted a bit. So I would like to insert certain steps before this one, and we have received feedback from you that it's very cumbersome to modify the recordings from the UI. We are aware, but there are some tips and tricks that we can do. So since I'm already somewhere along this scenario, I can start from the beginning. I can rewind, I can go back. So my current step is at index 0. So what can I do? I go to state 0, where I started, and I can click record. If I go now and perform certain actions, we can see that the next steps are added from where our current step was. So I can go here, and then I can create this customer, which was Trey, and add an external document number, which would be this. Then I'm gonna go back again at point 0, and I'm gonna stop my recording. So I have successfully added steps prior to the recording that I've made to recover from this scenario. And since I've already did that before, which we recorded, I can continue from this. But same thing again. What do we do? So same thing as Thomas did. Like now I need to go back. Where do I need to go back? So yes, I want to discard them. So I'm here, and before I invoke a row, I can go a couple of steps before where the page was shown. And I can click record again, and then I can input a search string of my external document number. That's it. I have my filtered row now, and now I can confidently select this. It is Trey, my recording works, and it's all good. And I have done my acceptance test. And it's only natural that in your apps, I have tested one, but now you want to test another action. We have tested the conversion from a quote to an order. Now I want to test the conversion from a quote to an invoice. So what we learned is that we need to create the quote, we need to filter down, we need to now invoke and assert our next test to create, but I can do and click through all of these steps yet again, but I shouldn't, because that's best practice number 2. You need to create your scripts to be modular and atomic. This way you can create building blocks for your next steps. So I have created these prior the presentation, so I can show you that I have created 2. I have created sales quote, which does what we saw, and I have split them in 2. Convert sales quote to order. But how can I then reuse these 2? These are independent. This is not a single flow. What can I do? And now here comes the challenge. So now it's no longer UI. Now I need to open Visual Studio Code, and then I need to create a recording myself. And the way that you can create these suites and import previous scripts and bundle them into one is that in here, in the steps, there is a special type which is called include. So I can still add the name, and then I can say create sales quote. I can add my description, then say create sales quote, and then I can point to which file. So in here, I have them, as you can see, in a folder which is in a different directory, and I can create them. I just want to be sure that I have the right name here. And this is the way that in my suite, I import and include one script, and then I want to do the other one. So I can do that, and then another include, and do the name, convert, just a different one. So if I now take this and then load into the product, I need to grant the browser permission to access these files first. I can see that these are included independently. And in this way, you can read the scripts a bit better. So if we run this scenario, we can see that we do exactly the same as we used to record, and it works. So I can create yet another just atomic script of converting to sales invoice and just include that one as well. But what's the problem here? That scripts that we have created are tightly coupled with the data, right? We input Trey as a customer, we input 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 as the external document number, and we need to make sure that every single script uses these files? Like that's not the way to go. And in here, you can use best practice number 3, I think I got there. And that is to use parameters. So your scripts can take input parameters, and you can define them, again, in the YAML. The way to use that is that I'm here on the sales, create sales quote. This is the script that we created. I'm going to hide the steps because they're not important for now. You need to add another property in the file, which is called parameters. And then in here, you can start defining your parameters. I know that I need to create a customer name. Sorry, I don't need the quote. And then I can say that it's a type string and that the default value is going to be tray. But I'm also going to make this required parameter. So I have this one, and then I have the external document number, which is string. Thank you, Copilot. But I have defined and said that this script requires these two parameters. How do I pass them in the input field? So I'm just going to search for input in my script, and we can see the value that is being passed to the field. So this is very important that in order to evaluate certain expressions, you need to use the equal sign. And since parameters are expressions, you need to start with equals. And this time is capitalized. So it's parameters, and then you need to supply the correct name. So you can use spaces. So if you use spaces in the parameter names, make sure to quote them, and make sure that the casing is correct, because this is case sensitive. And in here, we have the value, and we can repeat the same thing, parameters, external document number. I'm going to repeat that for the conversion script, and then I'm going to say parameters. But we know that in here, we only required the external document number. And it's type string, it's this, and we're done. Let's update the steps for that. Again, parameters, external document number. So we have parameterized these two scripts that we pass along. So these now turn out to be dynamic. You can define what data you're going to enter, and this is something that you can assert on. But then how do these scripts receive the parameters? So I'm here in the include. We saw that earlier. This is how we create the suite. But in order for my included scripts to receive them, I still need to pass them. So I will define them, the parameters option inside this step, and then I'm going to pass them as each one. So this is fine, but now I can pass the values. And this was tray, and this was 4444. And this is something that I'm going to do for these ones. So if I take, let's say, the sales quote, and I put them side by side, and we see that customer name is spelled like this. It needs to match one-to-one. So pay attention to the casing and to how the parameters are called. So let's load this script again, and sorry about that. I think I'm here, yes. And okay, I have in here created yet another one. But if I require parameters and they're not passed, you're going to see this dialog. So I can say a customer name, and then I can say BC, tech days 2025, and then something, and then this. So we have defined, we have passed the parameters, and they get transferred into the scripts. So you might have noticed that every time that I create a recording, I start from the role center, and then when I'm done, I close it, and that's on purpose, because if you are to utilize all of these atomic scripts, you need all scripts to have the same starting point. So that is also important to note. Okay. Well, you kind of need to take my word for it now. But in this way, you can create atomic scripts, you can use them as building blocks, and you can reuse all the steps that you have created in order to create these suits for your user acceptance tests. But some scripts, like as we saw, for example, creating a customer can be a user acceptance test independently and can be used as part of an included script. So how do you know that I can run it independently and as an include one? Well, if you define a particular value, you might end up with data collision. You might end up with validation errors. So you need to make sure that sometimes you create unique data. And the way that you can do that is actually really interesting, that if I open up this script in here, you can see that I have defined a parameter which is called customer name, and I have passed in a default value, but I have not specified that this is a required parameter. Instead, when we input the value in here, I have created a PowerFX expression saying that if I pass in a parameter, a value to it, which is different than the default one, then use that one. Otherwise, post-pend the timestamp, so you get different value every time that you execute the test. So to summarize what we just talked about is that in order for you to be able to take good assertions, you need to create the state. In order for you to not end up with data collision, you need to create unique values. In order to be able to create these atomic scripts, you need to use parameters. And in order to get the exact same data that you assert on, you need to filter. And something that we showed as part of the include is using suits, where you can define the deterministic order of how you want all of these scripts to be included. So those are the best practices that we've learned by using it internally. But let's hear, Thomas, what you can show us about how we can run all of these scripts in an automated manner.
Yep. Let me switch. Yes. So I'm going to talk about BC Replay NPM package. That's the additional helper for page scripting that allows us to run scripts without user intervention programmatically. Specifically, this helps a lot in CI/CD pipelines. So what I did, I tried to forget all about, I know about page scripting, and try to use it as a new person I would using the library, and try to capture all the gotchas that I had, and I'm gonna share that with you. So first of all, it's a public open source NPM package that you can import. We don't have the source code published, I don't believe. I think that could be really useful, especially for some of the ideas we saw from Luke's and Tina's session. But basically what it does, it allows us to take the page scripting recording that we produce in the browser, take that as a file, and then run it in any environment. It could be a Docker image, it could be cloud environment. It should not be production. It should be hopefully sandbox environment. And it has a couple of parameters that we can use. First, we need to define where is our tests. So we need to set which files to run. We need a starting address, and that's how you give it a context of where to run the tests. We need to set authentication, and right now, by default, it runs on Windows, because that would most likely be how the Docker setup works, or username, password, that's the second option, or AID, or Entra ID. With Entra ID, there is a bit of caveat right now. We still don't support MFA, but that's something we are looking into, how to make this better. To make my demo work, don't tell our security people, but in my separate outside of Microsoft tenant, not connected at all, this MFA is disabled for an hour. Yes. Then we also need to provide username key, password key. and this was a gotcha for me. So this keyword is specifically important. So you don't provide username and password here. This is the environment variables where the password and username is. And so how that looks in a PowerShell, this is here. So I have npx replay. npx is a shorthand in npm to run any package you have that has a way to be invoked as a command. So you don't have to necessarily make a Node JavaScript project and run some kind of JavaScript code. That's neat. I think we have that in documentation as well. I specify which step recording to replay. Starting address is my sample tenant. I have authentication set to AAD. I have username, key. Here you see variables, password key. So they are set as environment variables because that's usually how we set up CI/CD pipelines. We set environment variables. We don't specify username or password directly in scripts. That's a really bad practice. Yes. And lastly, I want to set all my results in certain directory. I just hit run. The only thing it's going to do is going to create one item, and it's going to run. Hopefully that's going to be quick, and then I can share some of the results. So this is running completely, let's say, the term is headless, meaning that you're not seeing any UI. It's all running in the background. And usually running in the background is faster, and that's how you would run it in CI/CD because you're not so interested in visually seeing what is happening. But if you are debugging something, headed mode is also very useful, and then you can visually see what is happening in the browser. And it's complete. One test passed. We can take a look at the result of it. In my result directory, I have played report. I have one test. I can see that everything went fine. And lastly, I can see the recording. Tenant loaded. And one item has been created. So even though I was running headless, the recording is still very useful to know what happened because you might be running in a very different environment, very different setup, not having necessarily environment variables, or I don't know, so suddenly MFA is enabled again, and your test is starting to fail. That happened before. Sorry, I need to drink.
So what's important also to note here that if there are test failures, you have the logs attached to the particular recording where you have a copy of your scripts where the logs are also embedded into it.
Sorry, I will cough. Mute the mic. I also got sick along the way. Yes, and the neat part is, since it's running headless, I can also run many tests. So in my case, I run only one items YAML file, but I can use glob patterns and just run all the tests. They're going to spin up independent instances and run in the background, but you still need to know that it is the same user, it's the same tenant. So whatever state you're changing, that might interfere with each other. So you need to follow all the best practices that Vasil has outlined to make sure that tests are running efficiently. And it doesn't matter if, I don't know, this is the day when time zone daylight saving came into effect or the new year came and suddenly all your test pipelines are red, and it happens every year, then you definitely have a problem. You should look into that. Speaking from experience. Yes. And my test now failed, and I can rely on the recording again to figure out what happened. So I have a second one, item of error, and then I can go here, look through the recording. Yeah, and here I was trying to find an item that didn't exist and delete it, so it failed. So that's really neat. I think we can go next. And there's actually, since it's an open source package and it's being continuously released, it's already leaking some things that we're working on, and we're going to talk about that. If you're very diligent and reading the NPM package description, you can already see ahead a little bit what we're working on.
Don't spoil it.
Don't spoil it. Yes. So, How do we use it internally? I think the first thing is we are using it internally. We are relying on page scripting. Sorry. We are relying on page scripting for every single change that our developers does. We have set of end-to-end tests that we have converted into page scripting because we want to dog food this tool and figure out, is it useful, how it's useful, what we can change, how we can improve it, starting with our flows, because we have a lot of tests. We have thousands or tens of thousands of tests, and some of them are really good candidates for page scripting. So we started with a few, and we've been converting, and so far I think the message or the learning for us is, it's very good. Of course, we fixed bugs, we found bugs along the way, but at least even with the limited set of capabilities that we have right now, we are able to get a lot of value from page scripting, and it has already caught some really bad bugs that would have ended up, hopefully not in production, but at least in some of the test strings that we have, and it caught that on the check-in time. So every time someone makes a change in the repository before they can merge, we run some of the tests that are being made with page scripting recordings, and page scripting, and specifically NPM replay library is running that for us in CI pipeline in Azure DevOps. Second thing where we found a lot of use for it was performance tests. We previously and still are using Selenium and Migrate. We're in progress of migrating to Playwright, and we found that being dependent on UI was making our tests very flaky. There's just so much variables. I mean, one machine is faster, one machine CPU is busier, and then there's small, tiny rendering differences that makes targeting specific UI elements very finicky. And this is where page scripting allows us to first very easily create scenarios, run them in parallel, load. It's not really for load testing, but it does provide a little bit of load on the machine since we can run in parallel. And it allowed us to very quickly start converting our performance test infrastructure as well. Other case where we found it useful was sharing as bug repos. So every time a PM in our team or other teams finds a bug, we internally also say, have you run page script and could repro this bug for us? Same as we would ask you when creating a support request. So we trying to dog food that flow as well. And lastly, the last place where we're using it, we're also using it as the last step before the build actually goes out and becomes the production build in cloud. We run additional full feature set tests in real production environments where page scripting is launched, and we try to validate if the real basic core functionality is not broken. And that's another awesome area we found page scripting being very useful for us. Yes. So, main message that you can carry out, even though it's in preview. We are dogfooding it internally. Every change or breaking change we would make, it would affect us equally as you. We don't have any special powers in the like BC replay or page scripting. We are using exactly the same production release of page scripting. Of course, we are looking at one ahead in the next version, but at least all the versions of the product that we still support are running the version of page scripting that is in production right now. Cool.
Yeah, and now who can guess what's next? It's, of course, from the lab. Yeah, so same disclaimer as a previous section. Like, doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to ship this. Doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be in the product ever. But we'd like to share some of the things that we've done for page scripting. So one of the things that I demoed, and I empathize with you when I demoed parameters, that it can be error prone and that it's a bit cumbersome. So what we did is that we extended the properties for the recording, that now you can define them in the UI, and they're backwards compatible. So I created these scripts in the YAML, and then I added the parameters there. So as soon as I load them, we can see them here, and we can change that. Additionally, what we played around was that we started thinking a bit more of how to extend the capability of how to allow you to script like more complicated scenarios. So we added the option to iterate over lists, to iterate over items, to copy rows, either a single row or all rows. And my personal favorite is the exception, whether it satisfies something. I love power effects expressions. So my favorite use of this is that you can run different tests based on different users. So you can create suits, you can create recordings, just simply as saying if my session user ID equals admin, then run this. Otherwise, if this is my user, otherwise don't do anything. So this is like one of my favorite improvements. Also, maybe in the future, when you will have extensions that also extend autofill, you can assert on certain suggestions that you want to see. What else, Thomas?
Right. We also cannot do a feature without sprinkling in a little bit of Copilot and LLM into it. So we also have added an ability to have LLM steps. So in this case, building it a bit on top of Bugsy's example today, creating an item with, how we called it, funny items, funny toys. For example, I'm creating an item, and I don't want to specify description, the same description all the time. I can actually add a step that's called run prompt. My prompt is going to be generate item title for a silly toy product, add a representative emoji as well, max 20 characters. I'm going to direct the value of the output into a control. I can drag and drop the target, pick a description field, that's going to be my target. I'm going to stop recording. I'll reset the state, that's the best practice. I'm going to run it. Yes, I do want to in production this time. And this is going to be a surprise both for you and me, what it's going to come up with. Wacky Wobble Worm. That's a really safe toy, so really awesome. And an awesome emoji. So this is a really great way to generate, first of all, random data, because you can figure out all kinds of prompting patterns. But we're also thinking how this could be more involved in making page scripting even more dynamic. That's at least where our thinking is going, to really make you be really creative, how you utilize page scripting, and it could also help to remove or recover from some of the error cases in the page scripting as well, and it could be even a lot more creative scenarios that you can come up with.
Awesome. And one thing that Thomas hinted about earlier is that we are aware that when you create all of these lengthy scripts, that it takes time to execute them. So we are, as we said, like we also have a bunch of tests that run for each merge validation, so it also takes time. So what we are exploring is to run scripts server-side, and something that won't require a browser, which will greatly improve execution duration. So yeah, we are currently in the process of testing this. Unfortunately, I cannot demo this live for you, but we are adding support for that in the replayer, and we are testing that in product, how it performs. That is what we have prepared for you today. Thank you very much. Are there any questions?
Yes, the comment was that we should also take a look at the conference app. There's also some questions. We'll, of course, prioritize. We'll do one each from the app.
I saw this. I saw you first.
Will there be a scheme file for the YAML so we can validate the steps and the parameters and the variables and
Yes.
whatever options is available?
Good question. So the feature is still in preview, so it's subject to change. And once, as we're working on GAing, that is one of the steps towards it, that we can define a schema for the YAML file and where we can document what each of these represent.
Yeah, I'll take one from the app. Is there any plans to use page scripting to prepare test scenarios that can be used in Performance Toolkit? That would be really cool synergy. I think we'll need to take that back to the team.
Very happy that there's an example from Web4Data, which we showed in a previous session on Areopa. So there are also things happening there.
Yeah.
I have one question. Is there a possibility that I have something like a reset point or something that if I'm running my script and I can go, maybe if I don't have a posting something, that I can go back and maybe don't have the issues you showed because I already processed the data. Maybe I'll say, set a restore point, running the script, return to restore point, and everything is nice. Maybe this helps a little bit. Is there thinking about this?
So
From navigation perspective, maybe that would be easier to achieve, but from resetting the entire environment state, that would be quite difficult.
because changing certain data have side effects, though what you can do if your script is created in such a manner that you can probably create scripts that reset the data in essence. Yes.
Yeah, we'll take one from the app. Is there any plans to add a kind of library for scripts, some way to organize it? Yeah, it's still in the idea phase. I guess that will be more in the browser instead of having the files on the on your own file system or versioning system. Having that more no-code way. I guess that is the intention of this question. Yeah, that's something on in the future list that we're considering.
I think we have time for one or two questions.
I was thinking maybe is there any way to tag the scripts with some versioning so that you can run some specific scripts only in some Business Central versions or something like that?
That's a good question. I can probably think of some hacks how you can go around it maybe soon, but not at the moment. But great idea.
Yeah, thank you.
I'll take one more from the app. Is it possible to execute a YAML file from the NPM library containing a prompt type instruction to generate a product description as we have seen in the presentation? Not at this moment. What we have shown from the lab is still experimental. We also need to make sure this is going through our entire AI feature review process, so to make sure it's safe, going back to harms testing that Bugsy mentioned in Keynote. But we hope we can do all of that and provide you this step in the YAML.
I think we're
Yeah.
soon out of time. So thank you everyone for attending and thank you for all the feedback. We are here if you know our faces. If you're interested in any other conversation, welcome to reach out to us. Thank you.